This SailGP event was a bit of an oddity from the start, with the GBR crew running into some rocks a day or two ago and damaging the foils to an extent they couldn't make it out racing. There were also less races and shorter races than usual, with all the racing being done on the Saturday. So there's 4 races and we're going to recap the big decisive moments from each. If you don't want to know the overall result, skip forward 20 seconds. So New Zealand won out in each of the 4 races. And I don't think I've seen such a dominant performance in SailGP before. If you can think of one, let me know. But it was really the starts that won the day for New Zealand. They won each start, and that made it easier for them being able to pick their own shifts and not being disturbed by any other boats ahead of them. So here's the first big moment of the day. This is race 1, the last leg. And we got this big cruise ship here blocking some of the wind. So New Zealand just finished there. The interesting moment here is between France and Australia. You see the boundary coming up here, and Australia want to go for a jibe so they don't hit that boundary, but France doesn't give them enough room to execute that jibe, and therefore France receive a penalty. So France have to let Australia pass, although they don't end up doing that. Australia slowed so much down here that Canada catch them up. So a bit tough on the Australians there, considering it was France's fault. But yes, the Canadians nipped them on the line. The next big moment I wanted to show you was the end of the second race. Now, we've got a similar scenario here. Again, New Zealand have won the race. Denmark in second, just crossing now. So let's have a look at what unfolded further back in the fleet. So we've got Australia coming in here with a lot more speed than France. France having to slow down even more to put that manoeuvre in. And Australia pit them on the line. So here we have a USA team going really slowly. They're under the cruise ship there, which will be taking some of their wind, but I'm not sure that's entirely the reason that they're going so slowly. They wander into the penalty. There's no penalty lines there, but there is a penalty zone here, and they have to slow down and let the Swiss team pass. At that speed, there's going to have no problems, but the Swiss don't seem to be sailing optimally either. So they don't pull off the best foiling jibe there. It's light winds, difficult to do. New helm on board with Nathan Aldridge. So the USA team clear their penalty and cross the line. I'm not sure how that works because I was under the impression that the penalties were only cleared when they let the boat behind ahead of them. But if you can explain why that is, let me know. So on to race 3 now. And this is the first downwind. We don't get a perfect shot of it, but we see USA here struggling to pull off a jibe, and that puts them even further back in the fleet. Skipping forward to leg 4 of race 3, we have a battle between the top 2, France and Australia, both fighting out for a place in that crucial final 3. Australia are windward boat of France, so they have to be careful to keep clear of the French boat. So the French boat here trying some luffing tactics, and Australia, it's debatable whether they were too slow to get out of the way there. Yeah, another little luff there. You can see Australia having to stuff it up, and they stuff it in the water, which is a critical moment for them. It slows them down. They have to pull off a jibe, which isn't fast either. France going faster here, they jibe too, but we see the New Zealanders here, who didn't have the best first few legs, have come right back into the fray. So here we have New Zealand coming in on starboard jibe. Australia here have to keep clear because they're on port. Try to leave it very late to do, tacking right on New Zealand's nose, which they have to stuff it in as well, which slows them down even further. They receive a penalty. Slingsby's just trying anything to get into that final 3 at this stage. Unfortunately, Slingsby doesn't manage to make that final 3, which makes it the first time in 6 events the Australian team haven't been in the final. So Denmark, New Zealand and France make the final 3. This is the final race start. We have France down to leeward, Denmark up top with New Zealand in the middle, which seems to be a favourite place for them to start today. But this time they use their middle starting position to luff up Denmark, slowing them down and trying to make it a two-horse or a two-boat race between New Zealand and France. So New Zealand taking Denmark up here. Denmark have to keep clear of their windward boat. New Zealand is really slowing the Danish down, but the French crew are going faster, so they'll have to be wary to keep ahead of them as well. So perfect start there from the New Zealanders, but French also done well, and they'll be closer to the mark, to the first turning mark. But it looks like New Zealand just have that extra bit of speed which allows them to get across. So here we are on the first upwind leg. The Kiwis still have a good lead. The Danish are trying to come out further to the left side, hoping for more breeze or a shift to bring them back into the race. So we see the Danish are going a clip faster here. I'm not sure if that's boat setup or just a momentary blip in the speed. But the trouble is they'll need to put attack in, which costs speed, and they'll be coming across the other boats on port. So they can't just make a small gain, they have to make a big gain. Otherwise they'll still end up dipping the sterns of the other boats. So New Zealand goes first here. We see it looks like the Danish are in the lead here, although very momentarily, because New Zealand lost speed on attack. And it's going to be a close cross here between the Danish and the French team. The Danish having to do a dip below the French. So skipping forward to the top of leg 3, we have France here below Denmark, and France have proved to be a tricky boat to be windward of. So let's have a look at what happens here. So Denmark almost managing to come across over the top of France, with France like a good luff, as we see here. So we see them popping up there. Denmark have to keep clear. The Danish do manage to come round with more speed on top of France, but France are still leeward boat and are able to luff the Danish up. And obviously the Danish here didn't do enough in the umpire's eyes to keep clear, and therefore they received a penalty, which is not ideal at this stage of the race. So the Danish here trying to do anything they can to catch up with the French. They split off to the other side of the course, but they seem to be going slower in less wind, and they have another manoeuvre to do. But let's have a look at what happens to Denmark here. Keep an eye on Denmark, because they're about to stuff it in and confirm their third place in this event. So that's it for this video. What do you think was the key to New Zealand's dominance? Was it just the starts, or was there something else? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps the channel, and I'll try and make more of these videos at the end of every SailGP. And we also just launched an online store where you can get branded clothing, mugs, phone cases and more. We got some SailGP designs, we got some America's Cup designs, as well as some with the Fast Forward Sailing logo. So if any of that sounds cool, there's a link to that in the description.